The April agenda briefing. The disclaimer: agenda briefing sessions are used to inform councillors on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. These meetings are open to members of the public who may request to present a deputation to council relating to an item on the agenda. No decisions are made at these meetings, although councillors can request additional information or alternative wording be provided to allow for motions to be prepared for consideration at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Any statement regarding any planning or development application made during an agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures, and to elders and emerging elders both past and present. Record of apologies. We have a few councillors away today, so they being Councillor Capragrego, Councillor Junio, Councillor Crispin and Councillor Boyland. Declarations of members and officers' personal interest. Councillors or staff, are there any declarations? Councillor Carboni.
I'll declare an impartiality interest in item 5.5.1, the Brunswick speed limit reduction, as I live in the central business district of Brunswick. And I'll stay in the room and vote on it. Oh, I don't have to vote today. And I'll ask questions accordingly.
As you always do, Councillor Carboni. Thank you. Are there any others, councillors? Staff? No, thank you. Deputations. We have one person here, Jack Taylor, who would like to give us a deputation in regards to item 5.5.3, which is the petition regarding the Cookinup Recreation Reserve. Would you like to come forward, Jack, and welcome? Thank you.
I thought you were going to hold a hand, Ben. I'm sure you can all tell this is not my forte, but here I am anyway, and thank you all for listening. I'd also like to thank Ben and Amy for getting our request to this point. We've been following up for a while now. So I'm going to try and leave my words to a few, but we hope that the Shire councillors will see how important the use of the reserve is to the Cookinup community from the email I sent through stating some of the history. We still currently have Robin Allingham dedicated to following up more history, and another history day planned for the 1st of June to gather more memories. And we're actually hoping we can turn this into a little bit of a booklet and perhaps raise money for our community association and provide an awesome element of history for our community. We're a very small yet stoic and history-rich community hoping to preserve and acknowledge its origins for years to come. We hope to see the opening of the reserve as a means of addressing 3 key desires in our community plan, as in equestrian needs, a cycling path. I myself have taken up riding a bicycle and would love to be able to ride through there, and bushfire mitigation, being that this block is on the cornerstone of a wick basically for Cookinup. We're on the rail reserve, which is a wick that runs straight from Yarloop through to Harvey, further on obviously, and also straight down Riverdale Road. So we'd like to address that as well. We hope that the incentive we've taken by means of a petition and following up in the history value of this block of land will also lead to the possibility of keeping the church and getting support from the Shire to be able to obtain grants in the future to renovate and refurbish and continue to use that in the future in terms of the cemetery just down the road. There's funerals to come, there's weddings to come, and there's christenings to come. We would love to keep that little house on the prairie type feeling in our community that we all value so much. And that's enough for me. I'm just shaking in my boots, so thank you very much. I hope you've all read through what we sent through and seriously consider bringing this back to our community, because I know we'd all value it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any questions, councillor Carboni?
Yeah, I note the Shire or the officer's recommendation does not support the use of motorised or equestrian activities.
Not expected. Equestrian, years ago, we have Janine Crook who used to ride her horse around the outside, not jumps, just a trail path, because currently we have quite a few horses that will ride up and down the roads. That's our community. We love that about our community. But it'd be nice if, like myself, being the age I am on a bicycle, I would like to get off the main road and ride through a spot where I don't have to worry about a car.
So you're saying you do want equestrian?
Just an outside, perhaps on the fire break itself, because that would, continue to retain the fire break existence, and it would keep them out of the way of everyone else. And we do have like an equestrian liaison advocate that we are working with within the community. As I say, she used that block years ago. There were no altercations between horses or walkers years ago. So we'd like to have her on board when it comes to planning what area can be used by them to walk around.
So was there a request for motorised use?
No, not at all. Not at all. And we would expect that with access given, being a member of the fire brigade, we would like to have a locked gate that would allow entry for a fire break vehicle, but also for a fire unit should there be a fire sparked by a train going through that reserve. But generally, just enough space for a horse to get through. I know Ben did send through some images of some aluminium bollards, but we think if we worked with the Cook and Up store, a camera could be directed at the main entrance so that if there were any offenders, we'd like to hold them accountable. We're proud of our land, we should be able to use it, and if somebody's going to ruin that for us, we'd like to hold them accountable.
Councillor Bromham?
Sorry. Just to clarify then, Jack, so what you're actually talking about is just a trail along the edge of the public open space, which allows a horse to be off the main road. Is that what you're really asking for?
For the horses, yes.
Yeah.
But
it's not an equestrian site, is it? It's just a trail.
It is just a trail. No, just a clear space for them to walk, or for them to do. I mean, I'm sure they could find a clear space to walk regardless, but we'd like your permission for them to be able to do that and for them to be able to go through the gate and walk down the fire break around that outside area, just off the main road.
Yep.
Not have jumps or clubs or anything like that, but we would like a footpath put through to go past the old hall site, the old cricket pitch site, and perhaps leading up to, and not immediately, if we can have that worn down by, a lawnmower going through or, something going through to clear that area so walkers can go through and eventually have that historic trail with scan codes, as Ben suggested, mentioning the history of these sites.
Yep, no problem. We've got lots of those trails through Leshnor, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thanks, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, we'll get into the officer's report. First one, 5.1.1, which is the Corporate Business Plan 24-25, quarterly report for quarter 3. Were there any questions, councillors? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. This is a great report and it looks like we're doing really well. The visitor engagement on the websites, is that unique number of 55,000 or is that a total number?
No, I'd need to take that one on notice, Madam Chair. I'll have a look.
Taken on notice, councillor Coleman. Any other? Yes?
Sorry, just two. I'm not sure if it's a bit of a typo. The ranger infringements said it's decreasing, but in fact it seems to have gone up. And similarly, the fire break compliance says it's decreasing, but it also seems to have gone up from the previous quarter. So I'm just wondering if that's a bit of a typo on page 66.
Just having a look at it, if that's okay, Madam President. Through the chair, if I can just explain, the target is trend decreasing, so that's what we're aiming for. However, that's not being achieved at this point.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Holly, sorry, yep.
Sorry, so is that the 28 and 48 in brackets? The 28 is our ideal and 48 is current, or see on the right-hand side there?
Through the chair, no, I believe 28 was for January. First quarter. 48 was for second quarter, and 49 is for the current quarter.
I cannot thank you enough.
Sorry. Through the chair.
Yep, Mr Hall?
Through the chair, Councillor Coleman, just responding to your 55,000 question in terms of the visitor numbers. So our target is actually 20,000 per quarter. So January 23, February was 15 and March was 17. So that is the total of 55 for that particular quarter. Last quarter, or Q2, we had 41,000 and Q1 we had 61,000. So that 55 is the total for the 3 months.
Thank you, through the chair. But if I logged on 10 times, does that count as 10 or 1? Is it a unique log on, or is it 10, does it count me as 10 people?
Oof, now you're getting technical. In terms of the unique ID, I would definitely need to take that one on notice in terms of your ID as to how that calculates, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to infrastructure services, item 5.2.1, which is the irrigation specification. Do we have any questions, councillors? I did have one, which I think, I can't find it now, but it just related to how we involve the developer and how we would actually do that. And I know you've answered it probably in the ELT, Mr Faber, but and how much weighting will the developer actually give to our policy if we dictate what sort of retic we want in a particular development?
Thanks for the question, Madam President. The weighting with, I guess, council adopting this policy is that this is the Shire's position and they are to develop it to those levels. Through a development application, we generally put conditions on the developer, and one of those can be that they need to build it to our specification. So it does carry a fair bit of weight. So that would be the general process.
And I'm assuming if we adopt this, that there'll be additional funding outside our current program to implement all of this, or?
Again, through you, Madam President, what this will do is there won't be any initial extra budget required to implement this. Mm-hmm. All of the stuff that we get through developers is gifted to the Shire of Harvey, so we don't actually pay for that in the first place. I guess the ongoing maintenance would be something that we would then take on board, which we're currently doing at the moment. So every new development, there would be an increase in maintenance costs going forward. But what we're hoping and what this policy will allow us to do is have consistency in the types of sprinklers, the types of pumps and those things. So it's easier for us to maintain rather than having 35 different types of sprinklers out there and all those sorts of things. So it's looking at efficiencies and also the effectiveness around having consistent approach to the types of infrastructure.
And our current retic that we have, though, will that just be phased in, will it?
Again, basically what we would do is it'll be a phase in over time.
Okay.
So when we need to replace things, we would impose those same conditions on our own infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr Faber. Are there any other questions, councillors? Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, following up on that, it just the types of plants that we're putting in place, as we discussed earlier, in relation to being water-wise and native species, so they don't need a lot of reticulation, to make sure we're covering those in relation to new development.
through the chair, that's the long-term intent, is to try and be more water-wise in what we're undertaking. I guess one of the things we do need to consider, though, in some of these environments, to be able to undertake the amount of pruning and those sorts of things, sometimes the native vegetation is not so suited to some of that. So we do go for some species that will allow us to have them in narrow verges, but we can continue to maintain without actually affecting the longevity of the plants. But as Mr. Hall indicated earlier, we do also have some preferred species that the developers can utilise as well in the species that they're looking at. And we also have the opportunity through the development of public open space to review what the developer's putting in and provide feedback on those.
Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, thanks for that. I just wondered, in developing the processes around the planting that we can achieve, whether it be native or not, are we also incorporating the drying climate to ensure whatever we put in place has longevity?
Again, through the chair, that is part of the consideration that we're doing going forward. Part of that will be also to look at the amount of turf we put in, because that's obviously a high usage species that we utilise. So we're continuing to adapt and evolve what our requirements are based on where we are as far as the climate as it progresses. But it is a consideration about the drying climate that we're facing.
Any other questions, councillors? We'll move on to Sustainable Development 5.3.1, the scheme amendment number 1 for finalisation, which is the short-term rental accommodation. Any questions? Councillor Coleman.
Madam President, I'd like to declare an interest in this, an impartiality interest in this, please, because I do have short-term accommodation and I do have a couple of questions.
Okay,
if I may.
I'll just make sure that's notated.
Sorry.
A declaration?
My
That's
apologies
okay.
for not
Thank
putting
you.
that through earlier.
Yes, Councillor Coleman, questions?
Yeah, there is a little bit to this, and I'm just wondering if I could, through the chair, ask Mr. Hall to talk us through the changes, the significant changes in this in this scheme amendment, please, so that those that are watching and listening can understand what's happening in front of us.
Mr. Hall, are you in a position to talk us through?
Thanks, Madam Chair. So the whole purpose of this particular amendment is to bring our scheme into line with what we call the model scheme text. And the model scheme text is actually a state government document that is actually, in this particular case, there's been a standardised amendment of which the format we've followed because the state government has introduced a requirement for unhosted accommodation, traditionally referred to as Airbnbs, but there's a whole range of different managers that provide unhosted accommodation, so to single them out is not fair. They are required to go on a register that is actually administered by DEMIRS, Department of Mines, I always get that wrong, by DEMIRS, Industry Regulations, and they have to be not only on that register, but they have got a 12-month period within which they need to obtain development approvals from council to actually have their unhosted accommodation actually approved by council. So what council has done late last year is initiated this amendment, which is consistent with all the other schemes throughout Western Australia, but we actually went one step further and actually introduced a temporary amnesty period. That amnesty period is going for a period of 6 months, during which we're encouraging those that have already been operating without the necessary approvals to come to us and get the approvals in place without getting hit with the penalty fees, basically, because it has actually been operating without approval. So the amendment that you have in front of you is actually a consistent amendment statewide. We are updating our scheme to give us the ability to impose or actually issue development approvals for unhosted accommodation, and this policy just guides ourselves and applicants through that process in terms of how they need to become approved and stay on that register so that they're compliant with state government initiatives that these types of accommodations are actually known, they're managed, and they can be appropriately advertised.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Councillor Coleman.
One quick follow-up question. Would I be correct in my understanding that there's also a requirement, a similar requirement for hosted short-term accommodation?
Hosted accommodation requires development approvals because there's quite a number of different types of hosted accommodation, but I don't believe they need to, they do actually need to go on a register as well, yes they do, but they're not subject to this particular policy.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Any other questions, councillors? No, thank you. 5.4 Corporate Services, 5.4.1 Financial Statements as at the 31st of March 2025. Any questions, councillors? 5.4.2 Payments for March 2025. Do we have any questions, councillors? Councillor Holly.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, could I run a couple through just for clarity of why and how they came about? I've only got a couple, like I say, so otherwise you can take them on notice or whatever you have to. The first one is a police clearance 76354 is the line number. It's a refund, and I just couldn't quite work out why or how this happens, because all the others were half that.
Through the chair, so the reason it would be a reimbursement is that sometimes in a recruitment process or in a clearing process for certain employees, the employee may go get their police clearance themselves, and then we reimburse them the cost afterwards rather than the human resources.
But most of the other ones were $53 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, I can't tell you why it was 103. I know from experience when I've recently done a police clearance, it was well over $50. So
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm not sure, but I can take the reason why it's more on notice too.
Appreciate that. The tip passes, which is 76501, is 183,812 for a month. What would that be for, please?
Through the chair. So council currently provides tip passes for our community. So when that community visits the Stanley Road tip, then basically they hand over their tip pass, and depending on what they're giving over, that charge is then forwarded back to us through that process. So that's basically the tip pass fees that are given back to us from the Stanley Road tip when our ratepayers take our tip passes to the site. So that's the agreement that we have.
Got you. Yep. 76544, which is barbecue cleaning for $4,673. I appreciate that these all have to be done, but if there was 2 barbecues, it's quite dear. If there was 112...
We do have a number of barbecues.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Mr Faber.
Again, through the chair, so that we do have a significant amount of barbecues. I think off the top of my head, it's around 30 odd that we get cleaned. So that's cleaned twice a week. We do them on Mondays and Fridays. And as that's contracted out currently under a request for quotation, that's our monthly fee, but there's also a small element in there for the cleaning of our Australian depot main area that's also included in that as well.
I sort of know that the answer will probably be yes, but do we check these barbecues on a regular basis to be forking out that money a month?
I would suggest, Councillor Holly, that the community lets us know if the barbecues aren't cleaned.
Yeah, no, well, that's what I thought, but I mean...
So I do know that, well, I can only speak on Australian ones. They're pretty well maintained. So I suppose we soon... But yes, Mr Faber's probably better positioned to answer that.
And I agree with what you said, Madam President. The bad things are going to be quicker than get back to us than being police, but I would like to know.
Yep. Look, through the chair, yes, they are kept to a very high standard. The parks supervisor currently undertakes random inspections. So there's certain things that we look for, making sure that they're cleaning out the fat buckets. They're also required to make sure there's no cobwebs and all of those things. So we do that inspection. The current cleaner that comes from Bunbury is actually doing them to a very high standard. We had a previous cleaner that won the initial tender, but we actually terminated their contract due to, I guess, their inconsistency in their cleaning methods, and that was picked up through our inspection process. So we're out there quite regularly checking all of those things.
Yep. 76316, which is maintenance of some sort.
Again, through the chair. So we currently have a contractor that undertakes our level 1 maintenance of our playgrounds. So that cost is that's not a monthly cost. That was,
Yeah. If it was monthly, I was going to get new legs put on and take that contract up. So that's all good. The Old Coast Road 76390.
Again, through the chair. So we're currently engaging Edgelo Engineering to undertake design works for us. As council would be aware, we've been short-staffed, I guess, in a couple of managers' roles, and obviously I'm filling in for the director's role. So previous to that, the previous director had engaged Edgelo's to do some of our design work to try and get those projects up and running. So that would be a portion of fees that they have been engaged to undertake for us.
For maintenance on...
No, so
Coast
that's
Road,
actually
or?
for drafting and design works for that. So it's not a maintenance cost.
Right.
So that's a consultant that we've used to do design and drafting works for us.
Yep. 76601, which is a refuelling cost, which I was wondering, the client obviously has the contract to do that, but is that refuelling in his contract that we fuel his vehicle?
Again, through the chair, I would need to take that one on notice. We do have our own loader out at Richardson Road. The Richardson Road is the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council. So I would suggest that would be fueling the contractor's loader. Oh, sorry, I'm getting confused. It would be our loader, so I'd need to take that on notice just to double check why it's saying Versace's. It may be because they have a mobile fuel distribution tank and they're providing that, but I'll need to get back and give you some more info.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
And yeah, sorry to hold us up, but there was just a couple that stuck out.
No,
to me.
that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Holly, all good. Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. Just one, 76358. Bianca Photography, $1,800 for the Harvey Harvest Festival. Why would we be paying that over and above the grant that we actually give the Harvey Harvest Festival?
Mr Hall.
Thanks, through you, Madam Chair. So you'll notice it's not only just for the Harvey Harvest Festival, it's also for the opera and for other events that we've been doing. So we engage through tourism photographers. In this case, Bianca was considered to be the most preferred in the way that she takes certain photos at certain events for our photographic library, for all our marketing, and we actually provide that. We've actually got a video library on our website of which companies can actually, businesses can go in there and use that photographic library to promote their business and the region. So they're our internal photos that we organise.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, I just had a question in regards to the credit card payments that were made to the Department of Justice. If I could have an explanation, please.
So I think there were 3 payments under the CEO credit card. I think they're $186 from memory each.
189.
189, thank you. They were for lodgement at the Magistrates Court for 3 separate cases to be heard.
But on behalf of the Shire...
On behalf of the
Shire
Shire.
enacting the...
For example, the rangers infringing someone and
Yep.
it needing to go to the magistrate's court for a hearing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? That must be a no. All righty. Does anyone want to go? Oh, stop. Well done. Community and lifestyle, 5.5.1, the Brunswick speed limit reduction. And I know Councillor Carboni's declaration of interest in regard to this one. Is there any questions, councillors? Councillor Holly.
Just wondering whose decision this was. Speaking earlier on at the ELT, Shane said that, Main Roads
Mr.
wanted
Faber
to...
said.
Sorry. If Main Roads want to do something, they'll do it. But is this... How did this come about?
Mr. Faber.
I guess initially, before my time at the community advisory groups, it was raised with Rick to look at reducing the speed limit through Brunswick. So Rick had made several attempts and request of Main Roads to consider that as a 40 km/h speed limit through that site. Main Roads have always pushed back, saying that there wasn't enough activity in the main street to warrant a reduction down to 40 km/h. Approximately about 3 months ago, I had a meeting with Main Roads because the advisory group had also continued to advocate that we look at that. So we went and had a meeting with Main Roads, and they brought forward the suggestion is that they weren't going to allow the highway or Omni Road to be 40 km/h, but they suggested the other way that could be proposed was to do a whole of Brunswick 40 km/h, which would include the highway. So we brought that back, and I brought that to council's attention at the time. There wasn't a lot of support at that time from council for the proposal, but after some subsequent conversations, I guess we thought it was good to go back to the community because the community had actually raised it, even though council hadn't supported it, just to get their views on what they thought about the proposal. So the community development group then went through the process of calling a meeting and having that conversation. And I think it was brought up on Have Your Say, and we got some responses back in relation to that.
Any other questions, councillors? No, thank you. 5.5.2, elected members' representation on advisory groups. There's just a number there. If you're interested, let you know, Acting CEO. Yeah, if you can put the nominations
Yes, Madam
through.
President, that would be fabulous. If you do know in advance to nominate, that would be great.
We just let the CEO, Acting CEO know. Councillor Dickinson.
This term would only be until October, and then it would be the normal process of all advisory groups standing down and then renominations. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. The Community Sale and Training Trust, I note that Councillor Boylan's on there and she can no longer legally sit in council. So do we need to, that leaves just the two that need to be elected. So can we not take her out, or do we have to have it like a re-election for that particular one?
I'll take that question on notice if I can, Madam President.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We did think about this carefully, but without the full report in front of me, I can't quite remember how we came to this. Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Sorry, Councillor Brumman.
Yeah, I had a similar question. I wonder why this has come to council at this time, given that we've got people on these committees as it stands, and we're only going to go through to October. I don't see the need for it.
Through the Chair, the reason that we're coming back to council is because council has adopted the revised terms of reference for each of the advisory groups that are remaining, and in some cases the number of councillors that are nominated exceed the number of councillors that need to be appointed to those advisory committees. So that's why we felt we needed to come back to council.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. I'll move on to 5.5.3, which is the petition regarding the Cookinup Recreation Reserve. Are there any questions, councillors? Okay, I'll start with councillor Carboni.
In the recommendation about the not supporting the equestrian access, if you like, can we change that to accommodate to what the lovely lady requested, where you can ride around the outside? Can we amend that motion? Yeah, riding trail, yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at rewording 2B, because my question was around motorised as well, which is the deputation doesn't stipulate. I don't think the intent of the petition is motorised. It's just normal push bikes.
Yeah.
As well. So maybe we can have a look at that, Acting CEO, to reword that part of it. Is that what you're asking as
Yes,
well?
yeah, correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we will have a look at that before the agenda goes out on Thursday.
Thank you. Councillor Dickinson.
I was just wondering what the reasoning was as to why the staff recommendation included the equestrian activities. And the other point that I also was wondering was, when it states motorised, would that also include battery bicycles as well? Or electric bicycles, not motorcycles?
All good questions. Through the chair, the rationale behind that was more about the access required for larger vehicles or horses, and if it was open for horses, then it obviously would be available to be open for motorised vehicles as well, larger motorised vehicles. However, as already requested, we can certainly look at the rewording of that. I guess from this item has been discussed across the Shire, so not only from a community development perspective, but also from a reserves management, from a fire mitigation, from an environmental aspect. So it's pretty much been across the Shire consultation, and the officer's professional opinion was that the reserve needs to be maintained and has been through a period of regeneration. We absolutely understand the need for community access to that, but need to make sure that the reserve is preserved as well. So it was trying to find that balance between what could be able to be accessed and what shouldn't be able to be accessed.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. So how do we control a similar sort of access through, say, Stanton Park? I'm just wondering, do we prevent vehicle access but allow pedestrian and horse access by perhaps a padlock gate, or how do we maintain the security and the usage on a similar sort of venture in Stanton Park?
Thank you.
Through the chair, so the Stanton Park lease area is actually leased to the South West Horse Trails, so we're really talking about a different case here where this is local government property that doesn't have a lease on it. Division 2 of the local government property law 2.7 lists activities which may be pursued on specified local government property, and also the extent to which we can make determinations about access to that property and what can be done. So there are permitted things that we can say can and can't be done, and it would be through the use of a permit or making determinations to the extent to which the manner in the activity referred to may be pursued. So through signage, through policy, etc. So there's certainly the ability for council to make a decision to bring, ride or drive an animal, which is 2.7A, or in relation to motorised vehicles, bikes, etc. So it is all contained within the local government property local law, and council could make amendments to the officer's recommendation to give effect to those determinations.
So just to clarify, sorry, it means that Stanton Park is leased and this is not. That's the essential difference. But if there was consideration of a lease of some sort down the track, it would be much easier for it to be used or maintained. Is that what we're saying?
Through the chair? No, not necessarily. The local law provides the ability for us to authorise and make determinations for the use of that land. So we can, create exercise zones. We can designate land for use of picnics, playgrounds, riding bikes. It's a similar process. I suppose the difference with a lease is it provides exclusivity, which in this case, with no body or group to lease the land, it's a public open space type situation. It wouldn't really be appropriate to move into a lease. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can we, Acting CEO, can we just bring up a photo of the site that we're looking at, and then we might be able to visualise it a bit. Not those particular photos. No. Do we have one of the? Let me try and find it. Yeah. Just so we can visualise what it currently.
Madam Chair, if I may just interject, it is actually a reserve under management order to the Shire, so we actually don't have the power to lease that property. Is that correct, Mr. Hall?
No, so yes and no. So it requires approval from the state, provided that it's consistent with the use. So the management order would likely specify that it's for a particular use, and I think in this case it might be, is it recreation or just public open space?
I would need to check that specific
reserve
classification.
Yeah, the management order would have a specific reserve classification, and generally speaking, approval to use land in that way is approved as long as it's consistent with that management order. Yeah.
That's. Just thought it might have been easier for us to have a look at it. So at the moment then, you have pedestrian access just around the outside, is that correct?
Sorry, Madam Chair. So yeah, that's the parcel of land that's being referred to here. Rail reserve here, obviously Riverdale and Gladstone. So Gladstone's been upgraded. There is fire mitigation tracks through here. So yeah, the parcel of land has historically been used right back in day one as a cricket pitch and a few other things. So, but really within the last decade, it did fall into disrepair, and there was a lot of weed mitigation and unauthorised use. and hence why it was fenced off. And the mitigation works that we've undertaken to date is seeing a good regeneration of the native vegetation that's there. And so we think that the recommendation that, as Acting CEO said, it's been a cross collaboration in terms of the 8 different directorates. We think that this is the most responsible use of this particular property, and not to sort of open it up for risk of it being sort of denigrated beyond what we think is appropriate at the moment.
So just confirming, horses now actually just ride around the outside on the fire break, is that what that's utilised for? And the access, is there any pedestrian access at the moment into there or not?
Madam President, horses are actually a vehicle under the Road Act, so they can actually ride on the roads and they can go anywhere they wish.
Yes.
I don't believe they can gain access to it at the moment by virtue of the way that how it's been fenced. So they would be able to use Gladstone Street and then go further south towards the cemetery. They can use that pathway network through there now, and shouldn't do, but they do use the rail reserve as well. But yes, so a horse can actually move throughout Coconut unencumbered if it's using the road network.
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Dickinson.
I was just wondering if there would be the possibility of future additional trails being developed in there, or if it would just be using the existing fire break type trail.
Through Madam Chair, I suppose trails falls under us a few times. So it depends on the type of trail that you're after. Look, so as you know, Councillor Dickinson, we've been putting together some heritage trails, and I believe that was one of the presentations to try and have a look at some of the heritage values and attributes that are in Coconut. There is the possibility of actually extending some of our thought process at the moment to include Coconut to have its own heritage trail, like we have introducing into the Leschenault and Harvey, in Brunswick. So yeah, that's not an unrealistic expectation to have a formalised trail through there that allows for pedestrian use. We could look at a question if we wanted to, and highlight some of the heritage on the way through. So not out of the realms of possibility.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. Just querying, how much in total is that parcel of land that we're talking about? As in size, not value.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, now that that's up, why is the top right-hand corner excluded? What's that?
It's a different parcel of land. If you click on the go synergy. Through you, Madam Chair, so that parcel of land is actually owned freehold by the Shire of Harvey.
So in effect, even though we don't own the rest, could that be included in the proposal?
Through you, Madam Chair, the land is actually being sort of managed as one sort of contiguous parcel. The petition was very specific with regard to the parcel of land it was referring to. We would need to consider, council could actually resolve to actually extend it, given the fact that it is actually a contiguous parcel of land. The community group have requested consideration for Reserve 4477. Given that parcel of land is adjoining it and has similar attributes, there's nothing stopping council from including that into the footprint of what you're looking at doing.
And I guess the reason I ask Mr Hall is because it doesn't appear to be fenced off separately, so it would look like it would have to be excised out of the proposal if we needed to do that. So thank you for the response.
Any other questions, councillors? No, thank you. All right, we'll move on to notice of motion for the following meeting. Councillor Carboni has a notice of motion. Any questions in regards to this one? I just have one in regards to the need to revoke the decision made at the Ordinary Council meeting on Tuesday the 14th of June. What was that decision? Thank you. That could possibly be sent out to councillors if we can't locate that, perhaps.
We'll take that question on notice, Madam President.
That's okay.
And,
if we locate
provide
it,
that.
if we could just send it out for our info, that would be good. Are there any other questions, Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, I remember at the time when we've initially looked at this as part of the overall scheme in the Australian area, one of the reasons against doing this was the cost, and I wondered if we could be provided with an understanding of the what the land's worth and what it would cost to develop it, so that a decision can be made on financial basis as well. Yeah, it was, yeah. So it should be there.
Can I ask what it's currently zoned?
3, Madam Chair, neighbourhood centre. Neighbourhood centre. So it's the same as the shopping centre.
Any other questions, councillors? No, that should be very interesting. Okay, matters behind closed doors is nil. Therefore, if there's no further questions, I declare this meeting closed at 5:53. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you.